Welcome. What you are about to watch is not science fiction, and it is not folklore. It is a serious investigation into one of history's most compelling unresolved questions: the mystery of the Bimini Road, the underwater stone formation that excited everyone. Across the world, in universities, research institutes, and field excavations, serious scholars are wrestling with evidence that does not fit the accepted story. Evidence that has been documented, measured, and peer-reviewed, and that still has no satisfying conventional explanation. We are going to look at that evidence carefully, without prejudice in either direction, not dismissing what is extraordinary, but not accepting it without scrutiny either. The truth, as always, is in the details. In August 1968, 4 divers exploring the shallow water off North Bimini in the Bahamas saw something that stopped them cold. Below them, in about 5 meters of clear Caribbean water, lay a vast arrangement of enormous flat limestone blocks, stretching nearly a kilometer in a sweeping J-shape, each block up to 6 meters across. The formation had structure, it had regularity, it looked, to the divers gazing down at it, like a road. The timing could not have been more charged. 28 years earlier, the American psychic Edgar Cayce had prophesied that Atlantis would rise near Bimini in 1968 or 1969. When photographs of the underwater formation reached the world's press, the comparison was irresistible. Here, apparently, was the fulfillment of a psychic prediction. Here was evidence of a civilization lost beneath the waves. What followed was decades of scientific investigation, argument, and a genuinely difficult question about what the formation actually is. The US Geological Survey published findings. Geologists studied the blocks. The conclusion may disappoint those who hoped for Atlantis, but the real story of Bimini Road raises a question that has never quite gone away. If it is natural, why does it look so deliberate? This is where our investigation begins. Stay with us, because the further we go into the evidence, the more extraordinary it becomes. The story you think you know is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more remarkable. Let us begin. Before we examine the specific evidence, we need to step back and understand the context. This case does not exist in isolation. It sits within the global puzzle of unexplained ancient construction, and to properly evaluate what we are looking at, we need to understand the broader picture that surrounds it. Archaeology is, by its nature, an incomplete science. We find only what survives, and what survives is determined not by importance, but by durability. Stone lasts, wood rots, metal corrodes, ceramics endure. The written word survives only if it is inscribed on stone or baked clay. Papyrus and vellum are hostages to humidity and fire. This means that every picture of the past, assembled from archaeological evidence, is a distortion, biased toward the materials that happen to last rather than the activities that define the culture. With that cave in place, the structures that do survive from the ancient world are sometimes inexplicable by any conventional model of the societies that built them. We find stone blocks weighing hundreds of tons, fitted together with tolerances measured in millimeters, transported from quarries dozens of kilometers away, and raised to heights that challenge modern cranes. We find astronomical alignments so precise that they track the movements of specific stars over periods of thousands of years. We find architectural proportions that embed mathematical ratios, pi, phi, the Pythagorean theorem, in civilizations that supposedly had no formal mathematics. The challenge these structures pose is not engineering alone. It is conceptual. How did people without our tools conceive of projects on this scale? How did they solve the organizational problems of feeding and coordinating tens of thousands of workers over decades? How did they transmit technical knowledge across generations without standardized notation? The buildings stand as proof that they did it. The question of how remains genuinely open. This context matters because it tells us something important. What we are about to investigate is not an isolated curiosity. It is part of a pattern that researchers in multiple fields have been independently documenting for decades. And patterns, in science, demand explanation. With that foundation in place, let us now turn to the specific case at hand. Now we reach the heart of the matter. The core evidence surrounding the Bimini Road, the underwater stone formation that excited everyone, is more extensive, more verified, and more troubling for conventional explanations than most people realize. Let us walk through it systematically, fact by fact, and allow the evidence to speak for itself. We are not going to speculate here. Every point that follows is documented in peer-reviewed publications, official archaeological records, or government archives that are publicly accessible. The question is not whether these facts are real. The question is what they mean. Consider this first extraordinary detail. The Bimini Road, also called the Bimini Wall, is a J-shaped arrangement of large flat limestone blocks in approximately 5 to 6 meters of water off the northeast coast of North Bimini Island, Bahamas. It was discovered in August 1968 by divers Joseph Valentine, Manson Valentine, Jacques Mayol, and Robert Angove. The formation is approximately 800 meters long, with individual blocks up to 6 meters across and weighing several tons each. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen, instruments malfunction, researchers make mistakes. But as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly. It is part of a consistent and documented pattern. But that is only the beginning. Researchers also discovered Edgar Cayce, the American psychic known as the Sleeping Prophet, made a specific prediction in 1940 that evidence of Atlantis would rise near Bimini in 1968 or 1969. When the formation was publicized in 1968, Cayce's followers immediately connected it to this prophecy. Manson Valentine, one of the original discoverers, was a zoologist and archaeologist with strong interests in pre-Columbian civilizations and was actively researching Atlantis when he found the formation. Now, a skeptic might propose an alternative explanation for this, and that is entirely reasonable. We should always test alternative explanations before accepting extraordinary ones. The problem is that the alternative explanations, when examined carefully, create more problems than they solve. The mystery deepens when we examine. The blocks comprising the Bimini Road are of varying sizes and are arranged in a roughly parallel alignment, with some blocks placed end-to-end and others side by side. Some blocks appear to rest on smaller pillar-like stones, which advocates have interpreted as evidence of intentional construction. A second, shorter parallel formation was discovered nearby shortly after the original find, reinforcing claims that the structure was artificial rather than natural. This is where the conventional account begins to strain. Each individual fact might be dismissed or minimized in isolation. But the cumulative weight of the evidence is another matter entirely. Perhaps most remarkable of all, Eugene Shin of the United States Geological Survey conducted the most comprehensive geological study of the site, published in Nature in 1978. Shin identified the blocks as beach rock, a naturally occurring sedimentary rock formed when beach sediment is cemented by calcium carbonate in the intertidal zone. Beach rock is common throughout the Caribbean and forms in flat layers that fracture along natural joint patterns when undermined by wave action or changes in sea level. Researchers who have examined this evidence have described it as genuinely difficult to explain within the accepted framework. These are not fringe commentators. They are credentialed academics publishing in mainstream journals, raising questions that the field has not yet satisfactorily answered. Then there is the matter of fossilized mangrove roots and shells were found within the Bimini blocks, consistent with beach formation rather than quarried or transported stone. The block's composition matches local limestone. No evidence of imported material has been found. Carbon dating of organic material within the blocks suggests a formation age of roughly 2,000 to 4,000 years, far too recent for any connection to Atlantis and consistent with normal Bahamian coastal geology of the late Holocene period. What makes this particularly significant is its independence from the previous points. This is not a case of one theory requiring another. These are separate lines of evidence converging on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Adding to the enigma is this finding: the Bimini Road remains a popular dive site and a focal point for alternative archaeology researchers. Subsequent surveys using remote sensing and underwater photography have identified additional formations in the Bimini area, some at greater depth. None has shown characteristics distinguishing it from natural beach rock. The site is visited annually by thousands of divers, and advocates continue to publish findings arguing for an artificial origin despite the geological consensus. Taken together, these facts form a pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, misidentification, or methodological error. Each piece of evidence has been examined by skeptics. Each has been subjected to alternative explanations. And in each case, the alternative explanation falls short of accounting for everything that has been documented. We are left with a body of evidence that demands explanation and an accepted narrative that does not provide one. This is where serious inquiry begins. Now that we have established the evidence, we need to examine the theories that researchers have proposed to explain the Bimini Road, the underwater stone formation that excited everyone. This is where the debate becomes most intense, because the theories reflect not just different interpretations of the same evidence, but fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible and what the past looked like. Understanding these theories is not just an academic exercise. Each one has been championed by serious researchers with genuine credentials, and each one captures something that the others miss. The truth, if it is ever established, will likely draw on elements of several. The first major explanation proposed by researchers holds that the Bimini Road is a naturally occurring beach rock formation, limestone blocks that fractured along natural joint patterns in flat-lying coastal sedimentary rock as sea levels rose after the last ice age. Eugene Shin, USC's 1978, the mainstream geological view. The main objection from advocates: natural fracturing does not typically produce such regular, large, evenly spaced blocks over such a long distance, and the apparent pillar stones beneath some blocks resist a purely natural explanation. This interpretation has significant academic support and is backed by substantial evidence, but it is not without problems. Critics point out that it requires assumptions that go beyond what the evidence strictly supports, and that key predictions of this theory have not been confirmed by subsequent research. It remains contested, and the contest is productive. A rival school of thought argues that the Bimini Road is an ancient man-made structure, a road, harbor wall, or platform built by a pre-Columbian or prehistorical civilization, possibly Atlantean, Manson-Valentine, and subsequent researchers. The main objection: no artifacts, tools, ceramics, or organic material associated with human construction have been found at or near the site. The block's internal composition and fossil content are indistinguishable from naturally formed beach rock. This theory is controversial, and deliberately so. Its proponents argue that the evidence demands an explanation outside the conventional framework. Critics counter that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that the evidence presented, while suggestive, does not yet meet that standard. The debate continues in peer-reviewed literature. Perhaps the most unconventional theory suggests that the blocks were originally natural beach rock, subsequently modified or quarried by ancient peoples. An intermediate position acknowledging the geological formation while allowing for human intervention. The main objection: there is no archaeological evidence of modification, no tool marks distinguishable from natural fracturing, and no associated cultural material that would confirm human activity at the site at any period prior to European contact with the Bahamas. What is striking about this debate is not merely that experts disagree. That is normal and healthy in science. What is striking is the quality of the disagreement. Serious researchers, working from the same body of evidence, reaching genuinely different conclusions. That level of fundamental disagreement, when it persists over decades, is a signal that something important has not yet been understood. The question is not which of these theories is right. The question is whether any of them is right, or whether the truth is something that none of the current frameworks has yet been able to capture. The case surrounding the Bimini Road, the underwater stone formation that excited everyone, does not rest on speculation alone. What distinguishes this investigation from pure mythology is the existence of documented, physical, verifiable evidence, material that has been examined by credentialed researchers and whose authenticity is not seriously disputed. What is disputed is its interpretation. Let us review the most significant documented evidence as objectively as possible. We are not going to cherry-pick the data that supports a preferred conclusion. We are going to lay out what exists and let you draw your own assessment. Physical evidence supporting this account includes Shin's 1978 Nature paper established that Beak Rock Formation is the most parsimonious explanation for the Bimini blocks. Beak rock forms in tropical coastal environments when calcium carbonate-rich groundwater cements loose beach sediment, sometimes within decades. The resulting rock is flat-lying and breaks along orthogonal joint planes when undermined by wave action or sea level change, naturally producing large, roughly rectangular blocks. Shin documented identical formations elsewhere in the Bahamas with no human involvement. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Investigators have documented carbon dating of organic material, shells, and plant matter within the Bimini blocks consistently returns ages of approximately 2,000 to 4,000 years before present, placing their formation well within known Bahamian coastal geology and far outside any plausible Atlantis timeline. The block's chemistry and mineralogy match local formation processes. No dating method has returned results suggesting an ancient construction date, and no independent laboratory has contested Shin's mineralogical findings. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. On-site analysis revealed the apparent pillar stones beneath some blocks, cited as evidence of intentional construction, are explained by differential erosion. Softer sediment beneath the blocks eroded faster than the harder limestone, leaving irregular supports. This phenomenon is observed in naturally occurring beak rock formations elsewhere in the Caribbean. The formation's J-shape is consistent with natural coastal geometry. Curved beak rock formations are documented at multiple Caribbean locations without any suggestion of human origin. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Each individual piece of evidence might, in principle, be explained away. A single anomalous artifact might be misidentified. A single anomalous date might reflect contamination. A single anomalous eyewitness account might reflect misperception. The question is whether all of the evidence can be explained away, and whether the explanations required are more or less plausible than the evidence itself. When multiple independent lines of inquiry converge on the same conclusion, that convergence is the most powerful signal in empirical science. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We have examined the history, the evidence, and the theories surrounding the Bimini Road, the underwater stone formation that excited everyone. Now we need to ask the question that is sometimes overlooked in discussions of ancient mysteries. Why does this matter? What does it mean for us today? It would be easy to file this away as an interesting historical curiosity, a puzzle from a distant past with no bearing on our present lives. That would be a fundamental mistake. The questions raised by this case touch on issues that are directly relevant to who we are, where we came from, and what the human story actually looks like before the period covered by conventional history. The USGS and independent geological studies consistently support the natural beach rock interpretation of the Bimini Road. The site is listed as an area of natural interest in the Bahamas and remains a popular dive destination. Satellite imagery and remote sensing surveys have continued to map the broader Bimini seafloor, revealing additional formations, all consistent with natural geology. The Edgar Cayce prediction is unfalsifiable regardless of the formation's origin. The Bimini Road is real, it is visually striking, and it sits in beautiful clear water, whether natural or not. It rewards a dive. What the science cannot resolve is why the idea of an artificial origin remains so compelling to so many people who have seen it. Furthermore, the tools available to investigate these questions are advancing rapidly. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, isotopic tracing, and deep-sea sonar are all providing capabilities that previous generations of researchers could only dream of. Cases that were genuinely unresolvable 10 years ago are now open to new analysis, and the findings, consistently, are expanding rather than contracting the mystery. The investigation continues. New discoveries are being made, new analyses are being published, new voices are entering the conversation from disciplines that were not previously part of the discussion. The answers, when they come, and they will come, will not merely solve a historical puzzle. They will force a fundamental revision of assumptions that underpin our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We have now walked through the complete case of the Bimini Road, the underwater stone formation that excited everyone from the historical record, through the physical evidence, across the competing theories, and into the modern significance of what remains unresolved. What the story of Bimini Road ultimately reveals is not just a historical puzzle. It is a mirror. It reflects our assumptions back at us, our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, about how knowledge is gained and lost across the centuries, and about the relationship between what we know and what we merely think we know. The evidence presented in this documentary is real. The questions it raises are genuine. The debate among researchers is ongoing, and that is healthy. Science is not a set of conclusions. It is a process. And the process requires that we remain open to evidence that challenges what we thought we knew, however uncomfortable that challenge might be. If you came to this documentary as a skeptic, we hope the evidence gave you something to think about. If you came as a true believer, we hope the critical examination gave you a more nuanced picture. The truth, as always, lies in the evidence, not in what we want to be true. Thank you for watching. If this investigation sparked your curiosity, please subscribe to the channel. We publish new documentaries every week, covering the full range of historical mysteries that the mainstream has not yet adequately explained. Leave a comment below telling us which case you want us to investigate next. The conversation continues. The investigation never ends.